So in my last video a few weeks ago, I showed you the similarities between a 2004 documentary called Our Boys, a 30-minute piece about a troubled Year 9 student who was illiterate and was going through a tough time in his life when the documentary crew were documenting him. And I also showed you a mockumentary made 3 years later called Summer Heights High, a show which followed 3 characters, 1 exchange student, 1 drama teacher, and 1 troubled child who were all at the high school. More specifically though, I looked at the character Jonah and how he was an illiterate kid in year 8 who also got in trouble a lot at school. Now you can already see a similarity I just mentioned between the 2 characters, and that is that they're both illiterate. Shockingly, that's not the only thing these 2 have in common. They also both get into trouble at school, they are both from Tongan descent, they both like breakdancing, and they also even share derogatory insults towards women in both their respective shows.
You so serious all the time.
Why don't you smile for once, miss? You got your period or what, miss?
By the time you get to 11, you're gonna regret it all.
Oh, that's it.
Now, if you saw my previous video, you will know that the biggest thing with these 2 is this. One character is portrayed by an actor in a fictional TV mockumentary, and the other is a real person whose life was filmed for a documentary. It's just the documentary was made 3 years earlier. You can already tell the ethical problems here, as well as the issues with plagiarism. In fact, the most telling example of plagiarism from the show that was released after Our Boys, Summer Heights High, is this scene-by-scene comparison.
It's sometimes very telling to look at the photos of students when, you know, there was a lot of hope abroad. And I look at that smile and I look at that hope in his eyes, and it's still there to a degree, but there's a lot of sadness.
Right? I look at a photo like that and I see hope in his eyes. And a lot of boys lose their direction and their hope.
But I'm not here in this video to talk about the potential legal and ethical problems with Summer Heights High allegedly ripping off Our Boys, like I spoke about in the previous video. I'm here to explain just how amazing the Our Boys documentary is to witness. Now, I want to directly ask you, the viewer, yes, you, to pick someone you know in your life who you think would be a great person to star in a documentary about their life. Now I want you to imagine how you would represent everything someone could possibly find out about them from watching just the space of a 30-minute documentary. Yeah, nearly impossible, right? Well, in Our Boys, they managed to do that, and the way they unraveled the main subject of the documentary, schoolboy Felipe Mahe, was simply brilliant to watch. As a viewer, you can see Felipe say horrible things to fellow young girls his age.
Free periods in English, that free period is like called a jigging period. You just go out.
It's not good to truant.
Oh, God,
because by the time you get to 11, you're gonna regret it all.
Oh, that's it.
And you also see how hurt they are by him saying this. Of course, the viewer thinks, wow, what a little shit, when they view such a scene like that one. But then you realize the reasoning behind such behavior when Felipe's home life is revealed. His real father died in a car accident, leaving him, his mother who is confined to a wheelchair, and his much younger sister who is in hospital very sick, all alone to account for themselves. To top it off, Felipe can't read even the simplest of words, making him almost illiterate. So he has to go to a special school to learn to read, which for anyone would just be humiliating at that age, but for Felipe it feels even worse when what is already going on in his life compiles onto it. The classes in a small building where he learns to read at a 6 or 7-year-old level would just be the cherry on top to how much this year 9 boy is going through in his life. The documentary acts kind of like a 4-week visitor would to his life, which is essentially what the doco crew were anyway. It ends with Felipe completing the reading program despite his clear reluctance to, and seemingly turning a corner in his young life to then go on to brighter paths. This documentary is obviously excellent. Its way of showing how much frustration is in this young boy is just unbelievably clever. The scene that stood out to me was the one where he performs a Tongan dance to a crowd at his school, which seemingly looks like he is well into the dance and is happy with his performance. But then in the locker room he reveals that he hated the whole thing and thought he did awfully.
Shit! Worst performer of my year, bro.
The way this documentary represents just how bereft of confidence this young kid is just shows us enough in itself to see why this kid is where he is and just how big a mountain he has to climb, not just in his physical and social life itself, but also how much inner strength he is yet to build up. Maybe I've dug too deep into this and read too much into it, but I just wish more documentaries existed like this one, because this one's just simply remarkable. For just a 30-minute peek into this kid's life, it's basically as if you got to see the home life and the personal demons of that one kid at your school you remember who struggled more than anybody and who never could quite catch up to the other kids. It's just amazing how they do this. Now, you'll be pleased to know that Felipe went on to make a great life for himself, and as a man now in his 30s is an example of the system succeeding a person and not failing it, as seen in the show with the various forms of help people give to Felipe. Of course, as we now know, the creation of the Jonah character in Summer Heights High led to Felipe feeling embarrassed and ashamed that the show had clearly poked fun at his younger self and pretty much copied it. But when it boils down to it, I believe Our Boys will always be far better than any version on a show of the seemingly ripped off Chris Lilley Jonah character. Our Boys is superior because of how real it is, and how it shows an amazing journey of a young kid just trying to keep his head above water when all others are swimming just fine. I don't want to babble on even more about this show. I'd rather you guys check it out for yourselves. Part 1 and 2 are in the comments below. They are in poor quality, it is 240p, but nevertheless it's still enough quality to figure out how good this show is and enjoy it for yourselves. Cheers for watching these 2 videos about Felipe Mahe, the real Jonah from Tonga.
Are you down, what? All the sounds get down, Polynesians all around. Now this is how we move your crowd. Yeah, your territorial betrayal as 2 worlds combined. The combination of MCs mentally intertwined, intellectually capable in this industry. The collaboration of curiosities, Asian MCs.
Thanks everyone for watching part 2. Obviously, I've burnt out from YouTube after making a video a week for almost 4 consecutive months. The first time I've ever done that in the 5 years I've done YouTube. I wish I didn't burn out and I could keep pumping out the content weekly, but sadly everyone has their endpoint when it comes to a hectic schedule like that. It's probably because with the way I make my YouTube videos, a lot of effort and time goes into each of them, and some weeks I was just putting in quadruple the effort that I'd put into other videos surrounding that one. A shining example is the egg drop videos in between my internet inspectors and Have You Seen It. They had a lot of effort put into them. But anyway, I'll be back to trying to make more content as frequently as I can. It might not be a video every single week, but there will still be a few scripted and well thought out videos coming your way very soon for sure. Stay tuned guys, and thank you for watching. Cheers everyone.